This week I've got Sam Sheffer on the podcast, who I've been wanting to talk to for a very long time. Thanks for coming on, Sam.
Of course. I'm not really doing much, so I honestly have all the time in the world, so thanks for inviting me on.
Well, that's part of what I'm talking about is like how we're keeping busy and what it's like to be a YouTuber in these times. Most episodes of this podcast, I try to make evergreen. That's the goal, is that you could come back and listen to anything at any time, and it's always going to make sense. This will not be one of those episodes. I think things are moving so fast right now that, I think, for one, when I have episodes and we're not talking about the current pandemic situation, when I listen back to those, I'm like, it doesn't quite ring as true because that's what's on my mind a lot. I just am thinking about it, and to pretend it's not something we're all conscious of feels, I don't know, like there's something missing in the conversation because it's on all of it's in our heads right now.
It would feel kind of maybe like tone deaf a little bit, to just like ignore it in a sense.
But on the other hand, it's like, it's not too worth it to get into any details of the right now very far, because honestly, it's going to take me at least a day to edit this and things will have changed by then. But some stuff that will be very relevant to you, like your experience being very different from mine, is that you are in New York, where we all know is getting hit the hardest. And I guess maybe let's start off on a low note of just what's it been like for you being there right now?
So I've lived here since July of 2013, so I'll be celebrating my 7-year anniversary this summer. And this is like New York. It doesn't need an explanation. It is a destination city for people around the world. People dream about visiting here, and I've lived here for 7 years. I still love it here. It just, the energy feels so weird, and I can't really put it into words, but like you were just saying, Tyler, like it's on everyone's minds. Like there's no escaping it. Everyone's thinking about the same thing. People are wearing masks. No one's going outside. I just can't believe, I can believe because it's happening, but like I can't believe that a city like Manhattan is able to, sort of calm down, and people are listening. For the amount of people that are typically in the streets, like I have an office that overlooks Broadway, which is one of the busiest streets in town. It's usually extremely crowded, people walking, getting lunch in the cars, construction, this, that. I would say if a normal day is, 80, 90% regular, this is now operating at 5 or 10%. There's no traffic in the city.
Anybody that hasn't seen, you did just put out a video, so I'll link in the description and in the show notes, just showing the city right now. And those visuals make the biggest impact, I think, really seeing what it's like to be empty when it's supposed to be full.
Riding home at night, for example, crossing over Houston streets, a very busy Broadway and Houston intersect. And sometimes if I hit a red light, I have to wait for the traffic to... If I pull up and there's just no cars in either direction, it is so unbelievably bizarre. And going to some of these iconic places, I just want to make it clear for your listeners, Tyler, everything is closed. You can't, like, restaurants are open, sure, some of them for takeout, but you can't go to the movies. No museums are open. No retail is open. There's nothing to do. So you can leave your house, go for a jog, walk your dog, go grocery stores and bodegas are open. But New York has not been like this ever, from my understanding, since World War II. Right. Or a hurricane.
Since gangs in New York.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It is very bizarre. And and again, not to get, too caught up in this, but I just don't know that, and I was thinking about this when I went to sleep last night. I don't know that we're gonna, as a society, especially New York City, because there's so much, New York is so dependent on tourism and the restaurant industry and retail. I don't know, Tyler, that we're gonna go back to a normal. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to go back to a sense of regular life where you could go outside and it's okay to sit down and have a beer at a bar or, see a movie. But this notion of things going back to normal, I don't know that there's a normal to go back to at this point.
I don't know what the average people are thinking about this. Like I don't talk to 100 people a day, so I don't know where everybody's heads are at. But I know there are some people that are waiting for that normalcy to come back. Like I can't wait for things to get back to the way they were. And I don't know a non-harsh way of saying this, but it will never be what it was before. Everything is different. We are in a different world. You know, even I mean, for us, like a big impact is that tone difference of like things feeling shallow or hollow that used to. A great example, actually. I've been wondering, like, what's David Dobrik going to do for the next year? Like that, like very like fun and like buying cars and that kind of vibe that was so huge for a few years is gonna have a different resonance now. We're all going to perceive it a bit differently. And so even comedy moving forward will have to kind of acknowledge what's going on. So there won't be the old world. I mean, it's the same as the way people talk about pre 9/11 and post 9/11. Like the world did change, but the scale of this will be much more. So
I think because this is having an impact on the global economy and people around the world. This is inescapable. 9/11 had an impact on the economy for sure, and it made a lot of people scared, and terrorism and war and that kind of thing. But you know, not everyone got hit with a terrorist attack at the same time. Not comparing the virus to a terrorist attack, but I was just reading the comments on the video. People around the world are dealing with the same issue, and I don't think in mine and your generation, Tyler, we've ever, I mean, maybe 9/11, sure, but we've never experienced something where the world is all thinking about the same thing. And it also kind of has this sense of unity in a really weird way where, I mean, I'm just so already tired of looking at Twitter. I used to about a week ago, I was obsessing over the stats before, right? When it was kind of the news was really starting to pick it up. I was watching the virus trackers and seeing the numbers. I'm just already 2 or 3 weeks in tuning it out already because I feel like I'm already so jaded by all this stuff because you can't escape it. It's all anyone is talking about ever. And also now, I don't know, I feel like the shock has settled where I remember vividly I was watching NBA Live with my brother in my apartment, and he had mentioned Rudy Gobert, like, touched the microphones, and then breaking news on TV, Rudy Gobert test positive, and then 30 minutes later, breaking news, NBA's canceled, and then breaking news, Tom Hanks has COVID, and I was like, everything is all the dominoes are falling at once, right? And so that sort of that emotion, the alarm bells were ringing very strongly. And now, week 3 into this, like, you know, unofficial stay-at-home quarantine thing, I'm just like, I just feel like, okay, this is it now. Like, I'm not like, oh my God, the world's burning. It's just like kind of this acceptance level now.
And I wonder how much news is slipping by that would have been the front page a month ago and is now... Like, who cares?
That's a
like,
really good point.
I mean, we could break it down into every industry. We could look at like, oh, what's going to happen with movie theaters? If you just took the news about every movie theater in the country is closed, how will that change movies going forward? 0 movies are being produced. Like all the restaurants in the country are closed.
Hold on. This is factual information because I like read this somewhere and I didn't really register. Movie studios are not there's no one producing content really right now.
Yeah, anything that was being shot in any traditional sense is canceled. Everything I've looked at from every single major studio has shut down every current set. And not everybody's happy about it. Like, there's a lot of directors and producers that are still like, look, I want to keep shooting. I want to find a way to do it. I'll test all my crew. We'll try to do social distancing, which does not work on a movie set. But yeah, there isn't new stuff coming out except for some, you know, hopefully there's an enterprising documentary filmmaker or somebody that can act and shoot themselves that's making something interesting at home.
And these late night hosts have now resorted to doing stuff. And it's just like the person's spouse recording on an iPhone, one take. And you just see how I mean, you and I understand this. It is not easy making a high quality YouTube video by yourself.
I have some
if you have a
tutorials
crew
to
of 3 or
send
4
in.
people, yeah, and you know that getting good lighting, getting good audio, getting good, video, remembering to hit record, these are all things that are usually tackled by a team of 3-5 people. Like even MKBHD now has, I mean, not right at this very second because he's by himself, but he's grown from a high school kid, a college kid in his bedroom with him, and he has 3 employees now. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I guess you can really slice any aspect of our society and hone in on it and say, what's going on with this? But everything
And
is
it's
just
crazy
on pause.
wherever you look. Like whatever every area you look, you're like, wow, I never thought we'd see this. I mean, sports, another one. So I mean, I don't pay any attention to sports, but one thing keeps going through my head is, what will the ESPN be doing in 3 more weeks? Like, how do they fill this time? I have absolutely no idea. It's
I don't either, and I don't really watch, like, I do watch basketball occasionally, but I'm trying to think of, also, you're just making my brain work now. All of the programming on television, is the Today Show on television right now? I have no idea. I know the late night shows are being done, at home on YouTube basically, but are these Good Morning America stuff, or is it all people reporting from their laptops? I don't know, because I don't watch.
Well, another way to break it down the chain is that so much of the way that cable pricing and cable packages are structured is based on live sports. Like live sports define a lot of how people buy their media subscriptions of all kinds, and is even a big thing that has been holding back streaming for a long time. So what happens when we spend a year without any live sports? Does everybody cancel all their cable packages and they're not going to, I don't know, like when they come back, it will be different. This is what I'm saying. Like things will get back into a functional economy. We will have this virus under control, but the structure around all of our consumables will be changed in some way.
I think that word you used is the right word. This consumable. We've grown to be this very consumerist society where I don't know that retail can return to normal after this, and I don't know that. I guess my thought, kind of like overall, and we'll probably just continue talking about this, but one thing that has really struck me is this virus has sort of pushed us all toward the future of being online, where 2 weeks ago, a month ago, this concept of working of home was so foreign to most people. My mom, goes to an office, traditional. She has like a sort of a regular job, if you will, but now she brought her computer set up at home and she's working from home. And now, not every single job in the world can be done with a computer, but we're in 2020. We're supposed to be in the future. And for better or worse, this pandemic has really shifted us to say, hey, we have the tech. Like, can you imagine being in this pandemic in 1998 when there's no YouTube, when there's no iPhone, when there was just, it would be very different. And I think sort of on the contrary of that, the misinformation about the virus, people are claiming to be, sort of know things. And then there's also like this issue of verified people on Twitter saying things that are conflict. It's just like the amount of information that we're able to intake because we have these, might be not the best thing, but I don't know.
So I actually did a terrible job of introducing you because I didn't even say what you really do for anybody that doesn't know who Sam Sheffer is. So, I mean, you cover tech and you have been for a long time at other publications previously, now on your own for a few years. I think we were both getting our YouTubes really going around a similar time that we both went independent with it. But you've got this really clear perspective into the tech world. So that's part of what I'd like to talk about. Let's follow some of these trails of what's happening now and how is that going to change the world of technology. And then also, I do want to get around to the new iPad and just do something light and fluffy towards the end. So let's have some good news eventually. So there's a pot of gold at the end of the doom trail.
Have you used it?
Yeah, I did get a review unit. So I've been trying it out for the last few days. So I have a few basic thoughts on it so far. So a big one that's maybe on my mind the most right now is Amazon and other delivery services, food delivery services. Anybody that we were already counting on before this started, and now we're starting to really rely on. We're at this, it's a tough thing to talk about. First of all, we are becoming very dependent on any delivery services. Nobody wants to leave their house. A lot of people shouldn't leave their house, or if you do go out, it should be as seldom as possible. I mean, if you're getting groceries, try to do it once a week, once every 2 weeks. Don't be shopping for things you don't need. But at the same time, it's putting all of these part picking people that are inside the warehouses that are choosing the things to send out to us. They are at risk, and delivery people are also at risk because they're exposing themselves to all of us as they drop off the packages. So at the same time as we're like, oh, I'm just so glad that Amazon exists, we're now taking all these people working at pretty crappy jobs that have not been compensated very well, not treated very well, and they are suddenly our lifeline to having a regular daily existence. So my thoughts on it so far, I hope that Amazon doesn't close and stop shipping things, which I do see that idea floated sometimes, is like, we have to protect these people. But I think it is their chance to really step up to the plate and turn around their perception of being a bad place to work. Because that's how I see Amazon. I think a lot of people perceive Amazon as like, they're not great to their employees. Pay them more, at least temporarily, give them risk pay, give them absolutely anything they need to feel safe in the workplace so that they are in as sterile of an environment as possible. And, if that means changing the way that people work, maybe it is even slowing down the whole process, do it so that people are not as exposed to each other. Like Amazon can do the right thing at this moment, and they will be a hero because we all want our packages. We all want Amazon to keep delivering, but it shouldn't be, we shouldn't be trading it off for the health and security of their staff. So I don't know.
You make a lot of really good points. I guess breaking it down, how would you keep, however many workers it is, 10,000, 40,000 workers safe? I think everyone would have to wear gloves. And like when you get to work, you wash your hands with soap and you put on gloves and you put on a mask. I think there's a misconception around this whole masks thing. Masks prevent you from coughing or sneezing and the droplets going onto other humans. It also really helps you not touch your face. If you have a mask on your face, the chance of you sticking your finger in your mouth is basically zero. If you have gloves on, you're not going to probably rub your eyes.
Doctors wearing goggles, like that. There's always eye protection as well, just to keep your fingers out of your eyes.
That's right. So I think if you really, try and diminish transmission, that is a really good first step. And I think, I don't know, like Amazon's still delivering packages, right? Like that's still a thing right now?
Yep.
They probably should. I mean, if you're someone like Jeff, he's got the most money on planet Earth. He can probably afford to double the hourly wages of the, warehouse and factory workers for these Amazon employees, at least till we return to some semblance of normal. I don't know that that would be really, really, really insane if Amazon stopped shipping packages, because for the last 10 years, since I've basically been in college, I feel like was when I signed up for Amazon Prime, and now I rely on Amazon Prime. If something doesn't ship in two days or even 1 day now, I'm like, oh, what's going on? This is so, such a burden. And I guess, you make a really good point. Now more than ever, with everyone staying at home, we all need deliveries. I've seen anecdotally Amazon packages or, local Instacart or UPS or, traditional mail, USPS. The deliveries are still going strong. It would be really nice, to see Amazon do something for its employees right now, at least, to say, like, yes, we need you. We are aware of the, conditions that we have you working in. Let's properly compensate you.
And I want to clarify that it's not that there's these rumors going around where, I don't want to be scaremongering. They're like, okay, Amazon's about to close, so buy all your stuff right now. It's more just like, we can all see that it's not running as smoothly as it has. Prime has slowed down. A lot of things aren't available that were previously. Like the system is breaking. Amazon workers are on strike right now. Amazon could try to fight this in the way that they always have, that they did in normal times, and just try to, hope it kind of blows over. I mean, even with the factory workers going on strike, which I think they deserve to be going on strike for this, we're also in a place where all of a sudden 3 million people were unemployed in a single week and are going to be looking for jobs, and Amazon will have no trouble finding more factory workers. And I hope they don't just go that path of being, just letting everyone go and bring in some new cheap labor. I don't know. That'd be sad to see. And of course, this isn't just Amazon's story. It's everybody that's running it. Uber is in a similar position.
I think that the infrastructure of Amazon right now is a little bit broken because of all of the supply chains. If people are staying home from work, not producing these goods, you're not going to have any goods to ship. I just, browsing Amazon, kind of lightly, a lot of things, you're absolutely right, are just out of stock, unavailable. And we don't really know when those things are going to be back in stock because the whole world's on pause right now.
There was actually a news story. There was one of those stories that slipped by. I didn't read it till like a week later, that Amazon was they announced that they are going to stop. Okay, and I don't have the details of this right because I'm not reading it at the moment, but they are going to stop resupplying non-essential items to warehouses. Like a lot of warehouse space will just be shut down for anything they consider to be non-essential, to make more room for, like food and bandages and aspirin and Tylenol and anything that could be deemed essential, which who knows how they're going to select that. But, they have already changed the way that they work. And some ways I saw it directly was we were trying to get just like some home workout stuff, which apparently everybody else is, because there are no barbells available on Amazon or in stores. I mean, we're already first we tried to get it at Walmart before everything was totally locked down. Now, they are nowhere.
So tell me, Tyler, what it's like for you in Canada.
So we have, at the moment, we have a lot less cases. We've been a lot slower to grow, even per capita. Like we're in relatively much better shape than the States right now. Hard to say exactly why. When I look around Calgary, which is, we're a city of 1.3 million, I guess. We're like a mid-sized city, but not huge. We're also very spread out. So we already have a heavy driving culture. It's hard to really get around the city walking. There are some American cities that are similar. Like we're more like LA in trying to get from one place to another, that you just don't walk. You are going to drive. So things like that are going to reduce our contact a lot. I can easily go for a walk without seeing almost anybody, depending which neighborhood I'm in. Like I can really see 0 people near my house.
And are restaurants and bars and those kind of things closed?
Yeah, everything is supposed to be closed. It was just, and a lot of that stuff is municipal. So city by city was being locked down. There's some things that were coming from the province, and then the more granular stuff was coming from the city. And I did notice it was just a few days ago that they announced all non-essential businesses to close. That was pretty recent here. And I'm still seeing like some cafes open and some things that I'm like, that is not essential. So the fact that our numbers of people that have it are relatively low, I think is making it harder for everyone to take it seriously. Some people are like, aren't scared enough yet, basically. They're like, well, my odds at this moment are lower, so I'm not going to worry about it, which I think is the wrong idea. I mean, having that approach is what will make it embedded in the community that you're in right now. And there are some very remote places that I know have had really severe issues with it already. So just because it's not here now that just means we're doing a good job so far, but we have to keep doing that. If you run out of patience and just, start resuming things as usual, then it picks right back up.
And one thing that's pretty profound about this situation is the lag time between people infecting each other and then the virus is sort of living in the body, and then it starts to have the effects on the body, and then they get hospitalized, and then they need the ventilators. So there's like this period of, thinking back to maybe the last week of February, the first week of March, when New York was still normal, and I was getting my morning coffee every day, and I was getting my food from restaurants and that kind of thing, and people were outside, that is when the virus was really, really spreading. And then all of a sudden, really overnight, it was like whenever that Tom Hanks and NBA thing happened, that was like a Wednesday or Thursday, and then that Monday, that was it. That Monday. So now we're in week 3 of this, and I think this lag is still we're still going to see the lag continue. I was watching Governor Cuomo just before this. He was saying the apex of the outbreak in New York or New York City, I should say, is going to be in the next 2 weeks probably. So like mid-April is going to be the height of when the most people are infected and in hospitals. And then hopefully by that time, because we've been social distancing and quarantining ourselves for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, now the virus isn't able to continue to spread. Thus, the numbers will hopefully start to decline because he was like, we're going up the hill right now, and then we still have to come down the hill. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of patience right now, which is going to be incredibly hard. Like I think right now at the beginning, it's relatively easy to rally people behind something that is fresh, and we all feel all this passion and fear right now. But when we've been sitting alone for month 2, I think a lot of people are going to start getting antsy. And,
So I want to ask you 2 questions. The first question is, when did this become real for you?
We had a few real things with jobs canceling. So we had one event we were going to go to in San Diego with an Asian tech company in January. That got pushed back already because they would have been coming from Japan. So it was already prominent enough in Japan that they were like, okay, we're going to move this back to mid or late February. Then that got canceled again. And both of those, I was like, this is real. I don't know how much it's going to come to us, but it's at least going to affect supply chains. It's going to at least affect the global economy in a real way. Factories are shutting down. Canon's not going to be able to make their new cameras. Like, I was very aware of that stuff. We had a video production job at Coachella as well. And once I saw those events moving, and actually, a very real moment was the James Bond movie getting bumped. That's when I was like, everything will be canceled. Coachella is going to be canceled. NAB is going to be canceled. WWDC is going to be. I just knew it from that moment. I'm like, there's no chance that all these other things are going to happen.
It was this aspect of dominoes falling, right?
Yeah.
One after another.
Then a next benchmark of when I took it really seriously, March 11th, there was a episode of the Sam Harris's podcast where he just went really in depth in it, brought on an expert. And that was pretty early. That was the first time that I heard anybody really going in depth on saying like, this will be a major issue in America. The US is absolutely not prepared. It's going to be just as bad everywhere. It's going to take a long time. Like we're talking about months, not weeks. And yeah, that whole conversation, I believed it at the time, and it's absolutely come to be the most accurate early prediction that I saw.
And isn't it funny how March 11th was early in this whole thing, when it just feels like every hour this thing is changing. So then my second question is, how long do you think this is going to last? And obviously that's a very, wide question.
And
in terms of, yeah, go ahead.
And obviously nobody should don't take us too seriously. We are filtering all the other people's opinions that have come through to us. So every YouTuber or, influencer in whatever way, like personality on the internet, only take them seriously if they have the credentials to back it. So we're just taking
which
what we
I
heard
certainly
from people
don't.
we trust. Yeah. My thoughts though. Okay. If I were to guess, I think we won't get a sort of normal until there is a really valid medical treatment that is extremely successful, and that is probably a year away still at this point, and that's to get things to like everything's just kind of open again and running smoothly. I think to get to a halfway, it's going to be very gradual on the way to that. We'll feel a lot more comfortable and we'll be able to do more things. I still feel like that's like 6 to 8 months, and it won't be normal.
Originally, when this first hit with the NBA being canceled, I was like, this is going to last 3 months, 4 months, where And man, I have so many thoughts. It's hard to say when things are ever going to, again, I don't want to use the word normal,
Normal,
more
yeah.
of like just like regular life where you could go outside. And I think masks are going to be socially acceptable now. I think
Yes.
that handshake culture might take people are just probably going to stop shaking hands as much as, they sort of used to. Although I personally, I enjoy when I meet someone or say hi to someone or like a friend, I enjoy a good handshake. Maybe that's just me. I know it's unsanitary, but I'm kind of sad that this is the way things are going.
Well, I've also
Obviously, I
been sad
understand why.
thinking about the effects on Italian culture. Like, I can't imagine that everybody is going to be comfortable going back to the hugging and kissing that we know so well from Europe. I mean, like, I love how close Europeans are in general, and especially Italians. And it's sad that that will shift. I mean, I think it's so ingrained in them personally. It'll be hard, but they'll have to do a lot less of it. And that's one of those
Yeah.
big, like, permanent examples of how the world's going to change.
That's right. I think going forward, it's going to be. At first, it was 15 days to slow the spread. Now it's the whole month of April. We're still on, I don't want to call it lockdown because you could still leave your house technically. And there's some other countries that they really, you're not allowed to leave your house.
Voluntary isolation.
Yes. And I was saying originally things aren't going to get back to whatever till the summer. And what does the summer mean? Is that June 1st? Is that August 31st? I would love to revisit this conversation, June 1st, in the beginning of June, because April and May are going to be pivotal months. Because, look, on the one hand, there's 30 something, teams that are working on medicines, not necessarily a vaccine, but a medicine,
Antivirals.
Hydroxychloroquine, antivirals, and maybe as testing ramps up, there are sort of aspects of this whole story that could take a positive route, but seeing the way things are unfolding, I think your estimate of the year for the vaccine, probably for sure. And again, if you're listening to this, me and Tyler are just speculating. We are not scientists. Maybe you are, Tyler, and I don't know about it.
Secret scientist.
I think that, so I'm turning 30 in June. Am I going to be able to celebrate my birthday with my friends at a gathering? I don't know. I literally have no idea. So I think, 2 or 3 months from now, we'll have a much better understanding of how this thing's going to play out.
Well, circling back to tech a little bit and hanging out with friends, what are you doing to socialize? How are you staying in contact with people? And you also, okay, maybe I'll start here specifically, is you already do streaming. You do Twitch, you stream games on Twitch. You've had a rig set up for this for a while. Now all of a sudden the whole world is getting in on it. And the last episode of this podcast I did was all about streaming. It's suddenly not a nerdy tech thing anymore. It's become like, this is how we're living, right? Like this is the mainstream. It's like when superheroes got expensive movies made, all of a sudden it's like, now this is the new normal. I don't know. What's that been like seeing everybody else streaming, or are more people watching? I don't know which question to ask here.
So I'll kind of answer them in order. You asked, what have I been doing to socialize? I mean, I'm on Twitter all day. I'm on Instagram all day. I FaceTime friends that are here. I FaceTime friends that are here. I FaceTime friends that are across the country, across the ocean. It's easier now more than ever to stay in touch. I miss human interaction. I think that I haven't seen, like, I've been outside and I've seen with my eyeballs other humans, but I haven't hung out with anyone. No one's been in the studio for, I think, 2 weeks now. My brother is away right now. I just haven't really come in contact with humans in a couple of weeks. So that's a little bit strange for me. But in terms of staying busy, I've made these 2 videos about New York. I don't know that I'm super comfortable going back to regularly scheduled programming. Like, I have a electric skateboard review I want to make. I have some other videos, like I have the Magic Leap. I wanted to do a review on that. I just don't know how it would feel. Like, would it feel tone deaf for the audience? Should I just acknowledge this and in the beginning of the video and say, welcome to Corona content? Like, we're all staying inside. Here's some
Demonetize
content.
it right away.
Yeah, right. And then in terms of the streaming, the NBA is starting a league that is a 2K league for its players. So apparently pro basketball players are going to be playing video games and it's going to be televised.
I heard about that.
So going from I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago when Drake and Ninja streamed together. That was this sort of defining moment for gaming. I think was a really pivotal moment. And now video games are the most accepted they've ever been. Streaming is also very accepted. There's so many people going live on Instagram doing workouts. John Mayer has his Current Mood show. My friend Adam Melcher is playing, a show every night. Alec Benjamin, David Dobrik went live. So many people are going live, and it's nice for the audiences to see these celebrities like this because it really humanizes them, where you could see a celebrity, everyone's in their house. Cardi B did an Instagram live and she was crying eating her cereal. I just want to go out to eat. So I think it's fascinating to see how these big content creators or big YouTubers or just like celebrities in general are responding to this, because again, Tyler, we are all globally dealing with the same thing. And that for, a majority of us is just staying at home.
Yeah,
and I just,
buy
again,
your way out of this one.
Absolutely not. And then it's scary to think about all of the nurses and doctors and, delivery workers and just people that are still working, because Americans have traditionally been maybe known as, lazy, fat, and, unmotivated is like maybe a stereotype for Americans. But the virus is pretty bad here, and there are doctors and nurses that are putting their lives on the line. A friend of mine that I went to college with is a sort of regular doctor, and they were called in to help treat some coronavirus patients. So I just want to say that, while we're sitting here kind of enjoying ourselves, right? I'm enjoying myself. You seem to be enjoying yourself too. We're kind of just hanging out digitally. There are people that are dealing with people dying in front of them. And this is, it's just nuts. It's really nuts.
Yeah, I think it'll have parallels to wartime, where we're going to have the struggle between decision makers that aren't actually on the front lines and dealing with this stress. And, the people running the country at this point, a lot of them are still going to be, in their apartments. Our prime minister has been in self-isolation for more than 2 weeks now. And the feeling of being on your own compared to in a hospital and that panic is going to be such a stark difference. And yeah, I mean, just to, echo your sentiments, like infinite respect to everybody that is still doing that. Like, they are absolutely our heroes. I mean, they really always were. And I think hopefully now they just get the appreciation that they've always deserved. Actually, in those live streams, are you finding them are they helpful to you? Is there an improvement when somebody is live? Like, do you feel some extra level of engagement compared to prepared video? Because that's part of what I'm wondering. It's like everybody's just turning on the live button because it's there. And is that actually better, or is it just people are bored, so they're streaming?
Wow, really good question. I think it's both. I haven't, my Twitch numbers aren't through the roof right now. I've definitely had better numbers in the past, but also I stopped streaming for a while. And when I go live, I'm not blasting it out on, I'll send a tweet, sure. But I like going live because of what you just said. The interactivity is unlike anything else. Watching someone live, that they're live. There's no disconnect there. And something like Twitch, you can to have a latency of 3 seconds, which is insane to be able to broadcast to people around the world from the comfort of my studio and have anyone tune in for free and they can interact with me. It's different than watching a news broadcast or a basketball game on television and there's the little red live, chyron, and you're just watching it, and it's just a very one-way sort of interaction versus Instagram Live or Twitch or Twitter Live or any of these live platforms on social media. It is a two-way street, which I think the levels of engagement are really great. I still enjoy seeing. I saw Jared Leto go live, Leto, however you say his last name, and he's Tyler. He's like this on his phone. He's trying to get someone in the live, and the camera's just like down here, and he's like trying to use the phone, and it's just like pointed up like this. And then Tyler, the creator, also went live, tried to go live with someone else on Instagram. They should really fix their live platform right now. And I have a couple of friends that work at Instagram, and if you hear this, I say this with the best intent and love. The live platform on Instagram could be vastly improved. Anytime I've tried to enter someone's broadcast, there's all of this echoing happening. There's latency. It's just not a really good experience. And I've seen two celebrities, Jared Leto and Tyler, the creator, try to go live on Instagram and have someone join, and they just had to X out of the live because they couldn't figure it out. And this is the moment for it to happen. But I was just saying, I interrupted myself. I still enjoy being on Instagram and seeing, whoa, this person that I follow has literally never gone live before, and boom, here they are live. And I think the way you said it too is fascinating. Here's a little button that says live, and you click it, and boom, they're automatically broadcasting. There's no setup, there's no pre-production. It's just a window into their life. And I think even if this pandemic would have happened 5-7 years ago, the landscape would have looked different. Like 2020 probably is the best, I put that in quotes, time for this to happen because of all the technology. I'm seeing a lot more, I guess me personally, and just in based on my Twitter sphere in general, just a lot more interaction on Twitter, a lot more viral tweets. My friend Jeremy Cohen, you probably even saw this, the dude with the drone who met that girl.
Yeah,
you didn't. Yeah, okay. So I've known Jeremy for years, and this is definitely probably his biggest. He's had a couple viral moments, but he shot the cover of New York Magazine. The video on the video on Twitter, Tyler, has 6 million views, and I've
Twitter,
never
that's
seen
incredible.
I've just never seen, in a general sense, so much engagement on Twitter. And maybe this is for political reasons because everyone wants to be active, but this is just, Twitter's now a place where everyone can shout into the void and it could reverberate around the world.
Yeah, I got to say that's been the best platform for me to be on right now. Not best in terms of exposure or some kind of juicing social media, just it's felt the best. I've always been really careful about who I follow, so I don't see a lot of negativity on it. I don't see a lot of bad news either because I don't use it as a news stream. It's mostly, it's people like you, it's other creatives, it's people that, gear as well. It's, if you filter the people that are able to give you messages, if you make sure that the stuff coming towards you is what you want to be seeing every day, there hasn't been anywhere healthier for me to be than Twitter. And I feel like it's found its moment as well because it is the text version of live streaming. You don't have to be able to turn on live and talk for 15 minutes at a time and be entertaining the whole time. You just have to have one interesting idea, and it is live for a while, and then it gradually fades and goes away, and then something else comes to the top. So I think there's a lot of people that never could figure out Twitter before that would appreciate it a lot more right now. Because when I look around at my normal friends, very few of them are on Twitter, like people in real life. It's everyone I know on Twitter, I know from Twitter. Yes, 100% of them are on Instagram. 0%. None of my close friends use Twitter much.
And why do you think that is?
There's a couple. Sorry, I know some that might be listening, so I have like 2. It's hard to figure out. And another reason is if you don't have a following, it's a totally different place. Because I always try to remember what changed when I went from having, I'd post a tweet and I would get 1 response if I was lucky, and sometimes 0. That's the average experience. When you tweet, nothing happens. And I think it's easy for us, people that talk about it, to talk in terms of like, yeah, you tweet and then you get all this feedback. It's a great loop of conversation, and you can start a conversation and people will talk back to you. It doesn't feel like that if you don't have a real following. And I think when people that don't want to be in the media's eye go and create their first Twitter account, it's very quiet. They're talking outwards and not getting a lot back, and it's just not clear what to do with it. So I don't know if Twitter can get past that point, but I would say that if you embrace it and you get active on it, that's when it starts having the payoff that I was talking about.
How do you feel about an edit button on Twitter? What's your take?
Oh my God, we need that edit button. It just seems so straightforward. Technically, and everything about it is achievable. There's no reason not to. I mean, it's a solved problem on other platforms.
I agree completely, and I'm glad we're on the same page, because I still see people try to combat the logic of, no, it could be edited in this. It's like, okay, you would get one edit within 30 seconds, and if you did edit it, it would say, click here to see review. Yes, very, very simple. And now Jack Dorsey, continues to joke about it. I think Reddit has an edit button, YouTube comments have an edit button, Facebook has an edit button, every Instagram captions have an edit button. It seems like, I understand still, the purists, but man, there's nothing like firing a great tweet that really quickly gets engagement, and then you're like, wow, there's a blatant spelling error in there, and you're just like, oh, come on.
Or gets retweeted by somebody big, and the URL is that happened to me the other day. I had a broken URL, and I got a retweet.
So edit button, yes. Okay. All right, let's talk more tech. What else?
Yeah, okay. What else is actually going on right now? Okay, so I just slightly want to touch on a few tips for anybody that is streaming more, if you're like jumping into Zoom calls a lot. This is the next video I want to make, so some of the stuff will be in there. But problems I see all the time.
How to Zoom?
Yeah, basically. I mean, and the same thing goes for FaceTime or Skype or whatever you're on. Doesn't matter. Headphones help more than you think, more than you would even understand why. If you don't even understand why they help, just wear headphones anyway. It's because the sound coming out of your speakers is heard by your microphone, and then the software needs to cancel that out. And so it's pushing the audio up and down constantly. That's the biggest improvement you could have, period. It also gets the microphone closer to you. So sometimes I'll see people sitting far away from their laptop, especially if there's 2 people in frame. If you have some distance away from your mic, that audio also gets so much worse. Like every single foot of distance drastically destroys the audio quality. So get closer. Make sure you have light shining on you. I don't know why that needs to be explained, but people just sit in the dark for some reason. What else? What else am I forgetting?
It depends on really, I feel like, where you're going live. Like if you're going for a really high quality kind of production, like there's a stark difference between using a MacBook webcam or an iMac webcam or a Logitech webcam, and then using a DSLR. Like still to this day, people are like, Sam, your stream looks so good. Like what? I'm like, yeah, you just plug in a DSLR and use an HDMI cable and get like a really high quality video signal. So I just, sort of seeing these news anchors and all of the students that are now learning online and the teachers that are broadcasting with the laptop flipped at a really terrible angle, and you see double chins, and it's like, get that sucker eye level, have a giant window over here. So it's lighting, it's sound, and then kind of like camera quality for me is a big thing. Like if you have the gear laying around and you want to try firing it up, OBS is a free program to use. That's what I'm using to record this audio. And there's a zillion and one tutorials on how to kind of get started. And now's the best time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Now's the time to watch all these tutorials. A thing that Twitter was great for the other day, I got some feedback while I was talking about live streaming from, and sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your name out there, Benj Heish, who was like, hey, did you know you can use your EOS R as a live stream camera direct through USB? You don't need an HDMI adapter. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. That's very interesting. So what
is the...
You need
the cables
pieces, just a USB-C cable. That's it. Direct USB-C into my computer, and then there's a bunch of software.
That camera has USB-C?
Yes, it does. But it also works for older cameras. It doesn't have any USB, because you know how you can like monitor your camera through live shooting. Like if you launch the Canon software, you can bring up a live feed of the camera. There is workaround software that can make that work. So I know that since Benj gave me this information, it was in his Patreon. So I'm not just going to I'll talk about it later, but first go check him out. He's a good guy and I appreciate him sending me the tutorial. It's complicated and kind of messy and gross, but it does mean you don't have to go buy that extra software.
Got it.
So that's been really cool for me because I didn't have an HDMI adapter. I was like about to buy one. I'm like, well, maybe I could go a little while without it. So, yeah. And the last thing I'll add about streaming is your audio is more important than your video. Like if people can't hear you, the conversation's going to go worse than if they can't see you. So, if you're going to invest in anything, start with a microphone.
And what's nice is most of these smartphones come with maybe a year or two ago, like the iPhone still comes with the Lightning headphones with a microphone attached. And I see so many creators on TikTok using the Lightning headphones because they have a microphone on them.
Yeah, and it's closer than on a wireless headphone. On an AirPod, the mic is at your ear, so it's 6 inches further than if it's you could hold the string right up to your mouth, and it makes a huge difference. All right, well, that's all the doom and gloom I got for today. Let's talk about the iPad for a few minutes.
All right, so full disclosure, I haven't seen it in person yet. I kind of want to just talk about my iPad history for a second because it's a very interesting device. I remember it was 2010. I was working at Engadget, and the iPad, we were covering the rumors. I was 20 years old at the time. What a crazy thing to look back at. And I remember when it debuted, I was like, that is such a cool piece of tech. Like, it is just a screen that has like the computer inside the screen, but it's also touch enabled. And man, kudos to Apple for doing capacitive touchscreens right from the offset. Like even the original 2G Edge iPhone has an incredible capacitive touchscreen where if you compare that to resistive Windows Phone 6.1, like crappy devices back then, Apple has nailed the touchscreen forever. Mm-hmm. And seeing so I bought an iPad, the original iPad with like the dome shaped back, and it was really cool. I was like, wow, browsing, on a 7 or whatever it was. No, that was iPad mini. I think the original iPad was what, 9.7 inches?
Yeah, around 9.
Something like that.
9 was in there.
So it was really cool to have that big iOS device alongside my iPhone 3G or whatever it was back then. And then I bought an iPad 2. And it was like, wow, they thinned it out. It's great. And then I haven't bought an iPad since, frankly.
Really? Yeah, iPad 2 is when I jumped in as well. That was my first one.
Mainly because the iPhones kept getting bigger. Like, as far as I'm concerned, this thing is an iPad mini. And
yeah,
I know
they are.
I get a
they're
lot.
pretty giant.
Huge. Yeah. I looking back at like the Nexus 7 was a 7-inch tablet. Now there are smartphones that are 6.5 inch, 7 inches in, and it's like, how did we get here? So I love the iPad. I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm bashing it. Colin, my friend who I share the studio with and do my podcast with, he has the 2018 iPad Pro. It has USB-C. It has the 120 hertz display. He has the bigger version. His iPad, when I use it, I'm just like, this is an incredible computing device. The speed and its capabilities are incredible. Now, there's just this fundamental difference, I think. And again, I haven't used iPad OS 13 in depth, and I've seen what iOS 14 is shaping up to look like. There is a difference between. So right now, I'm recording on my PC. I have the Skype call open in full screen on one monitor, and then on my other monitor, I have OBS open. And just this difference of being able to freely drag windows in the graphical user interface and resize them and manipulate them one by one with a desktop and your sort of system tray on the bottom and the clock in the bottom right. Like, we've gotten really close, and the mobile operating systems are incredible right now. I just feel like there's still this gap that the iPad now, I think this is going to change, and I'll let you speak to this because you have this iPad. The mouse support on the iPad, based on what I've seen from the sort of community and dev response, is completely game changing, where you go from this class of device that, like, you had the laptop and you could type, taking notes, but then you're always like tapping and that kind of thing. Mouse and keyboard work great. Like, I don't know why we were trying to get away from them.
Reason, yeah.
Yes. We're 30 or 40, maybe even 50 years into probably not that long, but mouse and keyboard work really well.
70s, yeah.
And Apple has done a really good job again of kind of converting us to this touch first interface. So I have been thinking about, I don't want to go out and spend $1,000 on an iPad with a keyboard right now, especially given the kind of current economic situation. But I am fascinated to hear your thoughts on it, because I think the mouse support going forward for the iPad is changing what an iPad is.
So the fact that you've tried the 2018 iPad Pro gives you a lot of insight into this one, because that's kind of still where we are. This is not the game changer compared to what that was. Last year's iPad was so good. iPad Pro specifically,
because of the 120 hertz display and because of USB-C and because of the processor.
All of it. It's just like checkbox. It's just nailing everything. And still, the struggle for me is the OS. So that was the story last year. That's mostly
Why?
Because, the one thing that you talked about, not having true multitasking, still is a challenge for me. I know kids that are growing up on iPads find a way to make it work, but for me, I am slower on it. Probably even bigger is just the most important apps I have still don't have the same support. So for me, that's like Lightroom, Final Cut, Audition. Those are the most important. If I could replace all those, I'd be set. Photoshop does exist, but it does not have feature parity yet. I'm going to try to start using it more often because it's pretty close. I'm also going to try to start using Affinity Photo. I'm sort of thinking of not switching, but I want to get comfortable enough with Affinity that I can speak to it. So that one's closer to being replaceable. Lightroom is not, even though they've done a ton of work. Adobe's done a really good job making it a really full-featured app. The big issue is storage. Even though you can, big step forward, now you can plug a USB-C drive directly into the iPad. That's really cool, but you still need to import the photos to the local drive of the iPad to store them. So every memory card I fill up is 64 gigs, and I fill a few of those a week in a normal shooting schedule, which we're not on right now. So it's not, I can't really like load everything onto the iPad and let it live there. It needs to live on external drives. Same goes for video. There are other options. Like I like Final Cut, but there's, what's the one everybody likes? Luma Fusion is the iPad editing app that people like. There's iPhone ones I like Video Leap does a good job. But again, you can't store that much footage. Even HD coming from a good camera, like the HD footage out of a Canon EOS R, it still gets pretty big. It's still hundreds of gigs from an average project. And it'd be challenging to store more than, maybe 2 videos on there at a time. Then you have to get them back off somehow. And then your project file isn't compatible with wherever you're storing it. So for my professional stuff, I just haven't been able to find where it's going to fit in my workflow. All that said, I do think part of the obstacle is that I have an embedded workflow that I'm really used to. And if anybody out there is still creating their workflow, I do think you could create a really successful, professional, creative system around an iPad Pro. The tools like Lightroom is really amazing. And if you started from the assumption that you're going to be working on the iPad, you could do everything you need to with it. I've seen people do better work than me in Affinity and photo on the iPad, being able, when you are good with a pencil, which I'm not so good. So a lot of these things are obstacles of like, where did you come from? So now I guess I'll get a little bit to the 2019 or 2020 model. Adding the trackpad, I think, is one of those things that lets everybody get way more professional with it. And the reason that trackpad metaphor is superior in some ways to a touchscreen is especially visible in typing. When I'm typing, and especially when I'm doing video editing, for example, I don't want to lift my hand from the table up to the screen and manipulate it and come back down. It slows things down so much. It was a really big barrier. And now being able to keep my hands down, which I'm doing right now using just a Magic trackpad, because I don't know the name of the case, but the new Magic
Folio thing, yeah,
with the embedded trackpad that's not out yet, unfortunately. But if you can use any pointer device at all, and it works basically the same way. Now I can keep my hands in place and keep working. So if that is in Photoshop, that means I can use my shortcuts. So like something I do a lot in Photoshop is cloning, where I hold down Alt and select the sample source, and then I start dragging around, and I have to keep holding Alt. Otherwise, I need to put my finger on the screen. So
are you using a Magic trackpad as your mouse?
yes, exactly. So I'm using it way more like a laptop.
So you have a proper, I get not like a mouse like this, but like a trackpad,
yeah,
right? And then the Folio keyboard cover. So you have a hardware keyboard and a hardware mouse, and you have, I guess, is it iOS 14 that has or iPad OS that have you tried the mouse? Like
exactly,
the little
yeah,
dot?
yeah, because it came with it installed in it, so the mouse is working right out of the box. Like you don't have to do
Wait,
anything.
what software is that running? Is it 13.3?
I don't remember the number, and it's not in front of me. I have my older iPad.
It's not iPad OS 14, right? I'm not crazy. That's
No.
not out yet, right?
No, I don't think so. I think this was a point release, because there wasn't anything else. This was the biggest new feature. There wasn't a ton of other software features, but the way that they did the mouse support is great.
Have you tried much of the LiDAR?
The LiDAR thing sounds really cool, but I don't know what to do with it yet. I mean, same as when I got AR support on my phone. It's like, cool, I'll go install the IKEA app, pretend to buy some furniture, and then I'm not really
There's
sure
just
what else to do.
there's no application for it yet, right?
But like there will be crazy stuff. So for me, the most exciting stuff isn't what I can do. It's watching other people. So anybody that doesn't follow Matt Workman on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube or anywhere, he is cinematographer DB. He used to do cinematography breakdowns, but now he's focused entirely on Cinetracer, his app, which he's been on the show as well. So he's reconstructing 3D environments in his computer, and you are basically able to shoot them like a movie set. So actually, maybe this is how people are going to produce movies while we're all in isolation, it's Unreal Engine creating a virtual world. So you're in a video game world, but you can place cinema lights wherever you want and lighting modifiers and place actors in place. And now his new updates to it, he's created a virtual camera using both, a camera and Vive. What's the VR Verve?
The
Vive?
Valve Index?
No, not the Valve.
The HTC Vive, yeah.
Yeah, Vive. Thanks. He's placed that on a camera rig, and as he points it around, it looks around in the virtual world, which is the same way that James Cameron made avatars. He had a virtual camera. He'd look around in 3D, and everything's just there, and it's mind blowing. So what he's able to do with adding something like LiDAR is you can really scan your physical environment. You can import 3D objects and place them in the room. Like there are people that are going to be able to quickly make really interesting applications for us, and like things that came with Face ID, for example. So this isn't part of the LiDAR, but just being able to have that 3D scan means like animators can do instant real-time facial animations that are accurate and realistic. So I don't know, we're still like, we're just hitting the point now where it's really going to affect us as sort of mainstream creators as opposed to like deep technical creators. But really soon there will be simple apps that let us bring this into what we're creating on YouTube or for gaming platforms. And it's just one of those key components that won't be obvious until all of a sudden you can't live without it. And Apple's going to be way ahead of everybody else because nobody else is on top of this stuff. They're going to be using Apple's like proprietary file formats, and Apple will have set the stage for it, and everybody else will just be piggybacking off of it. So,
do you think that the new iPhone is going to have a LiDAR sensor in the back?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's funny. Now that you asked me, why didn't that occur to me? Yeah, I mean, I sure hope so. Like this is the iPhone is, the premier device. So whatever comes to the iPad, I think we're going to see on it. Same thing. Actually, okay, wait. Here's a tech topic. We're slightly running out of time on our camera, so I want to get to this before it's all over. One thing I'm thinking about: what are the biggest tech companies doing right now about coronavirus? Because there's no way that Apple has made zero changes to their product pipeline because of this, or that, I mean, these are just some of the richest companies in the world. I'm sure they've at least taken some little division and they're like, can you just explore what we should be doing in this moment? Like, do any of our health device resources apply to this? Is there anything about the Apple Watch that could help people monitor blood oxygen levels? Or I don't know, like, I don't know where they're at, but there must be some big moves going on behind the scenes in the tech industry that will apply to this and that we will someday see.
I haven't even really thought about that. I watch Everything Apple Pros videos for Apple Rumors, and they're saying, I mean, we were supposed to see this iPhone 9 at the March event, which the March event never happened. It was just, the new iPad and then the MacBook. I would imagine, well, I mean, in terms of like creating some sort of, product or something like that, I have no idea. But for timelines, WWC is now online. Will the iPhone 12, launch happen in September like it normally has been? Not like because Apple wants to, do it at the same time, but are the supply chains going to allow for it? Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's probably a lot of disruption happening, and not disruption, the cool tech disruption, but like their product lines are being disrupted right now because of the coronavirus.
Well, even will we see the same iPhone that we would have seen without a coronavirus? Like, will a feature or two get removed to bring the price down because they know everybody's going to have less money to spend? That's the most obvious change I could imagine. I can't see anything else that would be affected by it necessarily, but
I think yes, we're still going to see the same iPhone, because I would imagine that Apple is probably 2 or 3 years ahead of itself in terms of like iPhone production. Like they know,
right. Yeah, that ramp up is long.
They know really well what this iPhone 12 Pro is going to look like. Probably a year or two in advance. But you are definitely right in thinking that they're probably, sitting in virtual meeting rooms, hopefully from the comfort of their own homes, saying like, okay, now that everything is on pause and our fundamental, idea of society and humanity has changed, like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Well, let's take this project and maybe go try this and maybe try, like, yeah, there's probably, I would imagine that the Microsofts and the Apples and the Googles, whether it's a product launch or maybe hopefully some sort of initiative to, there's all these companies shifting to helping making masks right now, which is fantastic to see. But yeah, I really do wonder what it's like to be an Apple executive right now, where you're looking at the economy and you're saying, we're not going to sell iPhones this quarter. Mm-hmm. Like, our Apple stores are closed. They're losing probably tens of millions of dollars a week in physical retail because, and again, we're just talking about Apple. I mean, I've been an Apple fanboy for a long time, but they're really what I know. I just can't imagine what it's like to be on the inside right now, having to make these crazy decisions for consumer tech where, they kind of have to be reactive because the virus is just continuing to change things.
Yeah, I think there will be big stories by the end of this about consumer tech companies saving the world in small ways, like, that ways that government wasn't able to, that they will appear out of nowhere with some kind of solution to something, or I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just hopeful thinking, but that seems to be where the world has gone to some extent, that we are sometimes being run by, private industry and more than government in some certain way. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it will somehow.
I think eventually we will. And when I say eventually, like, it really, like you said before, Tyler, it might be close to a year. It's crazy to think about this because we're only in week 3, week 4. But I think it's going to be, the repercussions are going to be felt for the rest of our lives. But I think in terms of the way this plays out over the next couple of weeks, it's gonna continue to change day by day. So it's kind of just like, wake up, check Twitter, make sure the earth hasn't set itself on fire, and continue doing what you do.
Well, to wrap things up, the iPad, I will say this is the best one in years. So if you have a 2018, you do not need to upgrade. But if you have an older one, you absolutely won't regret this one. Like they're amazing.
The cutoff is if you don't have a ProMotion display.
Sure.
I think this is going to be the first time that a sort of large consumer base experiences a high refresh display.
Oh, please come to phones soon.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Wish list for the iPhone 12, USB-C, and 120 hertz, please, and give me a terabyte of storage. Like, why not?
Yeah. Is that so much to ask? Sam, I really, really appreciate that you came on. This was fantastic. I'm glad we could finally talk.
And now that I've been on your show, as soon as I return to, I've rebooted my podcast probably 3 or 4 times at this point. I haven't recorded an episode in like 2 or 3 weeks, but I have a running list. I'm pretty sure you're already on there, Tyler, of guests that I want to have. So in the coming weeks or months, I would definitely love to have you on my show. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I would love to. And I can't wait to see what you do next. I mean, don't be afraid to do some tech videos. I want to see them.
Thank you. All right, man. Be well.